गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ओम ओम नारायण नारायण नारायण। So the 19th shloka we have finished. Today being Sunday, it's a Gita class. So fourth chapter we were discussing. In the fourth chapter, 19th shloka we have completed. Now we go to the next 20th shloka. Just before that 20th shloka, there is a brief connection given by Acharya Shankara. So I just read out Shankaracharya's Bhashya and then explain. Yastu just a minute. Where is this? Oh, 97. Okay. Got it. Yastu akarmadi darshi. In the previous shloka, akarma, karmani akarmaya pashyat. One who understands actionlessness in the action. Means what? Where there is an action, he doesn't remain at that level. He transcends that karma. Karta, karma, the time, place, the movement, all this put together we called karma. By karma we meant the entire waking state or the entire perception in which the knower, known, and the knowing, the doer of action, the doer of action, and the very doing, all this means all the triputi. This entire thing, as long as you remain as a karta, as a bhokta, as an individual, you are a part of the world. You are a part of a state, either a waking or a dream. You are a part of a state. That means you are interrelated. So that the world affects you and you do something with the world. So that is the state you are. Now this is state of karma. Karma is not an action here in particularly. Karma is not a given event. Karma is a state of your understanding, your relationship, a state in which you and the world whole thing exist. The whole waking state is a karma, state of karma, isn't it? It is a state of karma. So karmani akarmaya pashyat. One who sees akarma means a state of actionlessness. The nature of actionlessness he understands in the karma means as a in the, see the particular word in, if you translate it literally, karmani, in the karma or among the karma, anyway you translate, it doesn't suit there, because there Shankaracharya says the saptami vibhakti, the seventh case is adhikarana, the locative case. In English they call it locative case. The saptami vibhakti, seventh case, has got different meanings. Vishaya saptami, adhikarana saptami. Like this, there are more than one meanings in that locative case. Here the locative case, the Saptami Vibhakti means in the karma doesn't mean while performing karma, or in the karma doesn't mean regarding the karma. Regarding the karma, there is another way of doing karma. He is not changing, modifying, adding to the very nature of karma. See, because regarding the karma is not talking something. The whole field of karma, the whole state of karma is transcended by going it to the root. Root means the source of karma. In the karma, you see the karma, absence of karma, freedom from karma. In the Saptami Vibhakti, in means you go to the source of it, you go to the real nature of it. So you see, when you go to the source of karma, you see the karma itself doesn't exist. It is something like the ornament, like a golden ornament. Let us take an example. The ornament, the shape, the form doesn't exist in its real nature, called gold. Gold is its source, its real nature of the ornament. So the ornament shape, that you can hold it, you can use it in a particular way. Depending upon the shape of the ornament, you can wear it on the neck, or in your ear, or in your here hand, what you call, or you can wear it to your finger. All these things depending upon a shape. According to the shape, it can be used, it can be handled in a particular way. But if you go to the root, if you go to the source of all these ornaments, the gold, the basic gold without any particular shape, don't pay attention to the shape, just take the gold as a metal. How can you use it? Even a lump is also a shape. Lump or a ball is also a shape. A rod is also a shape. Any shape you can hold it. You can use it in a particular part of the body, like in your neck or ear, or to your hand, or to your wrist. Wrist also you can use it, a gold bangle. So if it assumes a shape, you can use it in a particular action, in a particular area. In a particular way, you can use it according to the shape. But all these shapes have an essential source, that is the metal itself. The metal itself without any particular shape. That means metal without considering a particular shape. Okay. You are not looking at a particular shape, because a shape is a tentative. Shape is a tentative. Shape means the edges. When you look at the edges can be changed, the total. So the content itself cannot be handled. If you take the gold itself, you just don't know how to handle it. Whether to use it as a bangle, or your ear ring, or your necklace, or how do you put it? The metal itself is not available. Unless you add a shape to it, it can't be used. Okay. So therefore, the ornament has its source in the gold. Gold is its original source, without any particular shape. All shapes are appearances in the gold. So similarly, so here in these things, when you say, see in all the ornaments, what do you see? In all the shapes, see something which is shapeless. If somebody says like this, see in all the shaped, in all the forms of the gold, see the formless gold. If you say, in all the forms of gold, in all the shapes of the gold, see the shapeless gold, the formless gold. Gold means the essential metal. When you say in, means in this sense. In means as a source. Okay. Seeing akarma in the karma. Seeing the truth, seeing the essential truth as a source of the appearance. So karma is a state. Karma is a state where you are related. You are somebody standing in related with something else. That is the world. So this relative status is karma. Karma in Vedanta, when we say the entire waking state, you standing as an individual, being related to something else, this relative status is karma. Now he says, in this karma, see the karma less, see the freedom from karma, see the akarma. In this karma means in this state of relativeness, you being an individual, being related to the world, this is a relative status. So karma is only a state, karma is a level, karma is a state of appearance. So understand this state of appearance has a source. The source itself is free from this state of appearance, this apparent state of karma. This apparent state of karma is not there in its original nature. Like all the shapes of the gold are not intrinsic to the very gold as a metal. See, all the shapes, whether the lump shape or a biscuit shape or a rod shape or a ring shape, any shape of the gold. Gold, you may see gold in number of shapes, various shapes. But none of the shapes, none of the forms are intrinsic to the gold. By intrinsic we mean gold is a gold only when it remains in this shape. If it changes its shape, you cannot call it gold. Is there such a shape? Is there such a particular form that gold is supposed to have this form all the time? And then only it can be called gold. There is no such a shape. There is no such a form. All the forms are tentative appearances. But the metal itself is the essential basis of all the forms. Similarly, so here in these things, when somebody says, see the akarma, the formless. Formless is not total absence. Formless is not blank. Okay? Ornament is a form of the gold. Gold, what do you call the gold itself? Gold itself is formless one. Formless one of the same formed one. The ornament is a form of the gold. The gold itself is the content of the form, the source of the form, the essential nature of the form, itself free from the form. Similar. So you leave the form, go to its essential nature, understand its essence as the basis, as the essential truth, as the source of the form. This is what he says, karmanya karmaya pasya. So similarly, you stand as an individual, you remain an individual and stand in relationship with other is a state of karma. Karma means a relation. You are continuously related. The relation requires a continuous response. See, any relation puts a responsibility on you. A relation requires a continuous response. Okay, you are somebody, you are related to something else. This relationship puts a pressure on you. You are supposed to relate to them, talk to them, behave it, either use it or don't use it. You don't know how you use it depending upon the various situations. Some things you have to use it, something you have to take care of, something you have to throw away, something you should ignore, something you should keep away. If there is a fire, hey, it is a fire, be careful, keep away. So now some response is required when there is a second thing. Okay, as long as there is a second thing to you, you are somebody and there is a second. The second puts a pressure on you, you have to respond. Okay, you have to respond. The response means a sankalpa, a thought. The thought makes you to respond. The thought is the nature of a response, you make in relationship with the second. So this is called karma. We take karma in a very broad sense. Okay. So akarma, see akarma in this karma means what? See akarma as a source of this karma. This relative state itself is not an independent. That means this relative status of jiva and the jagat, individual and the world, this relative, a pressurizing state, a relating state, a responsible state, a state in which you have to continuously respond. Continuously you are forced to respond. Only in deep sleep there is no second one, and you have no pressure of responding to other, isn't it? It is the only deep sleep where you don't have a second thing, you don't have to respond to it, because you are free. You are free from the pressure of responding to another one. Otherwise, if you are an individual and there is another, there is a continuous pressure. You have to respond, and you don't know what is going to be this result of this response, because you are little apprehensive, you are very careful, hope that something good will come, but at the same time you are anxious that something may not happen. So this responsibility, this responding, relating to others is always brings some kind of tension. Okay, now he says that individual and the second thing other than you and your response to it, all this put together is a field of karma, is a state of karma. This entire field of karma you have to transcend, because this field of karma itself is not a reality. This state of karma, this waking state, that you are an individual, there is a second to you and you are responding to it itself is not a reality. It is an appearance. It is a perception which has a source. The source is real, one thing. The source is independent of this apparent karma state. Apparent karma state has a state which is free from karma. Which karma? This apparent one. This subject to object and your continuous response to it itself is an apparent state. This apparent state has a source. That source is free from this apparent state. Okay? Like deep sleep is free from the waking state. Deep sleep is not a state, though we call it a state from the worldly standpoint. Deep sleep is you, very much you, without any state. Deep sleep is just myself. It's not as an individual, but even the individuality relates to waking and dream state. You drop your individuality and stand without even individuality, without the second thing, without a need to respond continuously. Okay? You subject, second object, and there is a continuous response. These three are free. You stand as somebody, a being which is free from these two. Okay? This is response is reaction, interaction, I mean. Response means a continuous reaction. Response is continuous reaction. Reaction, action, thought, feeling, expression, anything. When there is a second, you think of it. You relate to it. Relating, reacting, interacting, all this I am calling karma. In fact, the whole field of karma, subject, object, and the relation between them, all these three put together is state of karma. So this entire state of karma has a source. The source itself is free from this division of subject and object and interaction. Okay? Subject, object, and their interaction. So this, your real nature, in your real nature, you are free from this apparent nature of relationship. Okay? So that one who knows, yastu akarmadi darshi. So one who respond is antarika? No, antarika is not respond. Respond, it is a level of mind, body, sense organs, all put together. By response we mean not only psychological, I mean not only the mental level, sense organ and the body, all level. Because you as an individual, there is a second to you. The very thought that I am an individual, means there is something other than me. I am somebody, something other than me. The other and me, this itself is a thought, is a relation, isn't it? Me and the rest, subject and object, me and the rest, this itself is a duality. This itself is a dvaitam. Dvaitam involves a relation. In relation, you have to continuously respond, react, either through thought or through your sense organs or through your oral expression, or acting, thinking, doing, holding, using, not using, everything. And the world affects you. When world affects you, some affects you love them, some affects you don't want to love them. You don't like them. The world continuously affects you. The world means anything other than you. The second thing affects you. It affects you, so some of the effects you love. Like when it is hot, you switch on the fan. You get a cool breeze and you feel nice because that affects you. It makes you feel cool and you are very happy. In winter, it's very cold. Now you feel uncomfortable. You want to get rid of the cold. Then you switch on something, or you go sit by fireside and you feel warm. So the world affects you. And then you, some of the effects you love them, so you love to retain, and some of the effects you don't love them, you want to keep away. So this continuous interaction, because when there is a duality, there is a relation. In the relation, there is a continuous interaction. There is a reaction. All this put together we call karma. I think so. The problem is, those who listen to regularly, all these things are understandable. But the people come in between the class. In fact, this is online class is only meant for our regular students. Those who have been listening, those who have little background of Vedanta, who have been listening, they understand. So we are in the 4th chapter. That means three and a half chapters are over. And if somebody joins directly in the 4th chapter, everything looks different, and he takes every word in it in his own sense. And those who join, I think this is simple common sense, which I have learnt in my life. If you have joined a class much later, where the class has already started 3 months ago, 3 or 6 months ago, you join little late, then you are supposed to have an extra patience, because you are too late. Other people have already started. They understand certain things better. You take some time. In between, there are many things which do not make any sense to you. But whatever you understand. What you don't understand, keep it pending. Keep on watching, listening. Over a period of time, again another 3 months takes place, then you will start understanding much better. Because you become familiar with the subject. Otherwise, first day alone, you start questioning, why is it like that? Why is it like that? This is what I see. There is one discussion group, Vedantic discussion group in Facebook, not Facebook, in that, I think internet only. Google or Yahoo, I don't know, somewhere. So people join much later. And then anybody discusses any topic, any level, anywhere. There is no beginning, there is no ending. It is something like, take some book, any book you take and start discussing alphabets, grammar, and then everything you discuss simultaneously. The fellow doesn't know even alphabets, but he discusses grammar, alphabet, everything he discusses on the first day alone. I think it's all Gandhargolam we call in Telugu. A good word is a Gandhargolam. It's all thoroughly confusion. So those who join late, generally it is meant for our regular students, those who have been listening. My general advice is, those who have not heard Vedanta, better make a guru. First thing you approach a guru. Okay? You go to guru and then start learning from him. Even if it is a short while, maybe 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, you listen to him. He gives you, first you understands your level of understanding, where you stand in your spiritual life, what level of sadhana you need. He will guide you. He will guide you. Then if you make him a permanent guru, if you want to read any book or listen to any talk, then live continuously under his guidance. And then if you want to read any other book, take his suggestion. Which book to read and whether that book, how to read and how to understand, how much, you can take his suggestion. If you want to listen to another guru's talks through online or even personally, that also you can just inform him. And if he knows that other guru, his way of talking and his subject, then he will know it and he will guide you, he will give you some instruction. You can listen, because different speakers, different gurus talk. Sometimes they talk the same topic differently, or sometimes the traditions are different. Particularly in Hinduism, why Hinduism all over the world, it has become now pluralism. different gurus talk, there are so many traditions, so many bhakti, jnanam, Krishna, Rama, so many things are there. So in the name of spirituality, there are multi-branched things. If you listen all of them, if you are a beginner particularly, definitely you will be confused. Okay, you take one piece of that, one piece of this, and then mismatch it, and then you get confused. If you are confused, I tell you, correcting it becomes a big headache. It becomes a much more problem to you and problem to your guru also later. Therefore, when you are under some guru's guidance, if you are reading any other book, or if you are if you have to listen to another teacher, ask him, take his permission. Permission means suggestion, instruction, help and guidance. He'll guide you. Okay? If you want to listen to some guru, another guru, tell him this is what. Now can I listen? He will guide you. Okay? Then otherwise you just casually doing, is it like a museum that you go and watch anything? Just like open the TV channel and watch something like an entertainment. Vedanta is not an entertainment, it is a life. Don't play, it's like playing with a fire. Why do you want to play with a fire? Why do you take life means so lightly like an object of entertainment? There are objects of entertainment, you mean your life is also entertainment for you? Then terrorists can torture you and you enjoy the entertainment of your life. They'll persecute you. They'll torture you, then you can enjoy. So life is not an entertainment. It is an understanding, it is a pursuing, it is going deeper gradually. So it requires a guidance, because the deeper levels are dangerous levels. When you start going into deeper levels, they are dangerous. Dangerous in the sense, if you are properly guided, okay. Otherwise, as you start digging deep into yourself, many things come out. You don't know how to handle many unknown things, new things. If you start experimenting, then life, not one janmas go waste in experimenting. In the process of experiment, you lose your leg, you lose your hands, you lose your ears, you lose your eyes, become blind, and then if you keep on experimenting, how long you do like that? So some guidance is required. Therefore, any newcomer, we traditional people, we just don't welcome. We have to say, if you are a newcomer, first thing is you make a guru. Take your guru's permission and come and listen to my talks. Okay? Otherwise, see, we have one method of teaching, one way, and already few months are passed. 3 chapters are passed. We are in the 4th chapter, middle of the 4th chapter. We don't know your background also. And then just talk, interfere and make any statement. I say, should you make any statement on the Facebook? I see them, some question or some comment you make. Do you expect me to respond to your question? Take your question into consideration and answer, or ignore it. If I have to ignore you, then why do you make a statement there? If you have to ignore you, then just you are passing on the road and some entertainment, somebody's dancing on the footpath, and you just wait and see. Do you think I am dancing here and you just while passing see and go away? See, it is a systematic understanding. So first you make a guru, and the guru will assess you, understand your level, your thinking, your maturity level, what background you have and what kind of teaching you need. And then accordingly he will guide you, and you start at one step, then have your future steps also, some idea of future steps, then pursue it. Then each step how to follow, how to do that, and then go ahead. So, and then other gurus, if you want to listen, it will be of some help if you are properly guided. Otherwise, a piece of that, you will end up confusion. You will end up in confusion. So, see, in Hinduism, in Indian land, we have like systematic. It had been there even now. Now the present fellows are becoming like Westerners alone. You just pick up some guru, listen to somebody, read some book, and so some book, go to library and read as you like it. This is not the way. Because Westerners who have no traditions now, because earlier it might have been there, now they have lost them. We can understand their situation is like, because they have to search. They have to search somewhere, keep on going. Why Indians should do like that, helter-skelter? Roughly and helter-skelter, why do you do? You have a tradition, you have a family, you have a guru, your family guru. Family guru you have. Or you ask your parents, your Vamsha Guru you have got, or you go to another Guru and you have got a tradition, you may have some Shankara Pita, or you have got some Guru and then ask them, take their guidance and go to approach and then learn systematically. First, what book you should read? First you learn Dharma, then learn little Karma Yoga, then values, and then come to other things. Directly touching some Vedanta talk is going on somewhere middle, suddenly you go, it's not an entertainment. And if you come, such people, don't put question here. Okay? Don't put question, just simply listen. Keep listening if you want regularly. Then over a period of time, you start understanding. So why just come like this? Now, should I respond or what shall I do? Or is a madman and should I ignore it? Okay? Okay, let us proceed. So this Western looseness, this American looseness of just doing anything casually, everything is entertainment, nothing is serious, and that kind of thinking, it is so all pervasive that your life has no meaning. You don't learn what is dharma. First, your responsibility to yourself, certain basic values of life, your nitya karma, sandhya vandanam, or some kind of prayers and rituals. Then your respect to your parents. Then certain family values and traditions, and then go to the school and then the guru, and all this is not there, just you go casually. What is this? Are you human being or an animal? As an educated animal. Educated means what? A sophisticated animal. Okay, you learn to be a good human being, then the start systematic way, and then it comes. If you are a casual man, also I don't mind it, be casual, but don't comment here. Watch and go away. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, we are mad people listening to Vedanta, trying like that, you just ignore and go away. Anyway, you want only just a curiosity, just to see what they are doing, what they are talking. Just listen and go away. Okay. In fact, I wanted to do, but I don't know, people didn't respond. We want to only those who have taken friendship of my Facebook alone will be allowed, and I could block my Facebook so that no outsider will come. Only known people, friends alone will listen. Other people will not be able to see the Facebook. I should have done that because it is a more serious class. It is a formal initiated class. Anybody just can't come run into it and then just disturb it. But anyway, in India, we are little more free because Indians understand this much. We don't have to tell them, I thought. But Indians also behave like foreigners. What is this all? Okay. No, okay. So hereafter, keep this in mind. Now, first, you learn the basic values of your family. That's why in India, we have got a family first. Don't behave like an orphan. You have a family. First, go to your mother and father, talk to them. Who is your family guru? Who is your family deity? Okay? Your Kula Guru, your Kula Devata, your Sampradaya, your traditions, your customs. First, you learn them, start practicing them. Then through them, go to your Guru, and then Guru will guide you. Then go to next advanced Guru, then Guru will that way. Those who do not have such a family system, all this is broken, then we have to teach him separately. Then we'll give him some guru and then some instruction, some starting point, then the next step, then the next step. Then he will also get into a tradition. Due to some reason, see, two things are there. Those who have lost tradition can be reinstated. They can be given a tradition. They can give a family deity, family guru. All that can be given at a later stage. But those who have them, why should you lose them? Or you have them, still you ignore them. Now this is you have to handle them, these people. Nothing is serious. Okay. Now let us continue. So yastu akarmadi darshi. So these are all technical words. They need certain depth, certain level of understanding, certain level you have to come. Then this will be understood. You can't go directly to a university MA level and just, we call them in gate crash in English. Gate crash, just you go there and sit there and start questioning why you do like that, why, what is like this, why should I do all those things. First they say, who are you? You just come in and then start questioning. All these people are much more senior, advanced students of MA level, PG postgraduate level in the university. Why just you come and interfere? So therefore, hereafter I am telling you, everybody make a guru, and he will tell you what level you are, what sadhana you need it in your personal sadhana, and sadhana and learning should go together. Okay, what level? Then gradually you will come to that. Just don't go keep on listening like a number of speakers are there in the TV. You listen to that one speaker, this speaker, this speaker. All this you mix up and get confused, because each one talks differently. In somebody's teaching, you find something contradicting another's teaching, and one guru says one thing, another guru says contradicts, and the people create it like a political scandal. Somebody criticized this fellow. Oh, that TV channels have got a chance. TV channels have got a chance. Now you say this person criticized and other people criticized it. You want a sensational news? All these are barbarians. These TV channels live on emotional frustration, emotional problems. They create problems and enjoy. These are all mental cases. Most of the TV channels are mental cases, because they want to disturb the minds of the people, create confusion, create problems, and make money. Oh, these are all dangerous TV channels. Therefore, stick to one guru. Then if you listen to another guru, then you again take permission and take guidance. He will tell you how to listen, how some of the points have to be ignored. If there is a contradiction, he will resolve. He will help you to understand, then proceed it. It should not be too intellectual, addiction. Intellectual addiction or intellectual entertainment. Life is not an entertainment or fun. Take it seriously. Vedanta is not an intellectual entertainment. Okay? Every point has to sink into your personality, and your understanding of life, your vision of life, your response should change. Your experiences should change. Okay? It's not an intellectual entertainment. We are not here for entertaining you, and don't expect to entertain you, and we don't do. And sometimes I'll abuse you also like this because we are not entertainers. We have entertainment. There are many channels. Go. Your life is loose and you are a loose person. Go there. If you want serious, then there is something serious. Okay. So, Yastu Akarmadi Darshi, I thought these things, those who have regularly attending my talks, they know all these things I have taught number of times. So I don't need to say these things. So for the beginners, we say these things. For the beginners, you should learn this thing, then have a systematic thing, and then move ahead. Then you will be really moving in your sadhana and learning and growing. Otherwise, what is all this? People want to make careers. Like America, just you go there and you want to make money, you want to just indulge in pleasures. So we just don't know why life is there. Like in America, a person is born and you throw into the street. America is only like a railway platform. Somebody comes and somebody goes, and you don't know what is he, why is he coming and what is he doing. He just does it. And another people just live like animals in a forest. And later some people take a little more interest and do something more. Oh, this is... So, in the name of freedom, they are going to another extreme. Too much of rigidity, like in Abrahamic religions, this monotheistic religion is one extreme. America is another extreme to these people. These Abrahamic religions are one extreme. And they rebel and they go to another extreme. You need little discipline. You need certain faith. Faith also, it should be a healthy faith with a reasonable and meaningful faith. You can't totally be against faith, or you can be totally blind and rigid barbaric faith, that you go and kill others. My religion tells me to kill you and I'll kill you. No, this is another extreme faith. A faith should be a reasonable, meaningful, healthy faith. Okay? The balanced. That's why Hinduism had discussed, it thought over everything. So life should have some discipline. It should not be too loose like modern way. In fact, there is no such thing called thing. Do whatever you like, that's all. There is no rules, there is no family, there is no tradition. There is no... Just take up anything as a career as long as you get some money. Do something, get some money, live some live. That's all. We just don't, we have no life. We have got a varna, ashrama. What do we mean this? There is a varna, there is an ashrama, there is a family, there is a tradition. Okay? And becoming loose, followers of Abrahamic religions, seeing its over rigidity, going into another extreme like American life, we can understand. But why Hindus having a tradition, having a families, having a structure, having a great ancient culture, why you also behave like animals and just casually go somewhere and do things, walk on the street and see appear something and you see it there, and just go somewhere and somewhere there is a hotel, you eat, somewhere you sleep and somewhere you go. Life has no meaning. Just live like an instinctive animals, impulsive animals, instinctive and impulsive. Just live because you feel like doing and do it. Okay, it's not for them. It is for the people who follow little Varna Dharma, certain discipline, certain values. Matruman, Pitruman, Acharyavan Veda. Brihadaranyaka says a person who was brought up well by mother and father and also Guru, Acharya. Means when you are brought up, when you are groomed by mother, she gives you certain values, certain discipline, certain way of looking, understanding of life. Then next stage, father gives you. Then the third stage, you go to the school or a teacher, Gurukula, and the Guru gives you. Then the personality grows, develops with certain maturity and understanding. Okay? Then such a person, we can teach something. Otherwise, a person just to bring him from the street, like an animal brought from a forest. I tell you, he is looking at the forest, we have to run away. Looking at the animal, we have to run away. You don't know what it does. Huh? Such a wild people. Oh. Okay. Yes, to akarmadi darshi, one who says, okay, leave it. Because when people, I see some comments like that, then I feel like commenting like this. Okay, now coming to the topic. Karma means the form, like similar to a form, has got a content. Similarly, karmani akarmaya pashet, one who understands what happened. So, akarmadi darshanadeva, the very moment he sees means he understands. Understands is not intellectually but intuitively. Intuition means in his anubhava. He understands that I am beyond this karma, means I don't stand as an individual. Individuality is an apparent. I in my real nature transcend the individuality, transcend my relationship with the world, and I am just the essential nature of pure consciousness, the witnessing consciousness, Sakshi Swarupam I am. One who understands that non-dual conscious being, like in deep sleep, I am that non-dual being from which that individuality is transcended. Because individuality is only a thought. Thought is only a relationship, okay? Individuality is a thought is a relationship. But you have an anubhava in you where you don't stand as an individual nor you are related. You are neither an individual nor you are related to something else. There is nothing other than you. You are not an individual, no relation. It is a non-relational, one whole, infinite, one being, a natural, self-existing. It is Swatha Siddham. It is Anubhava. It is an Anubhava. It is an experience. Anubhava means it is a nature of you. It is your nature where you alone exist, all alone yourself. Whole world is also part of you because world doesn't exist apart from you. So that one who discovers that. So akarmadi darshi, this is a Bhashyakara's introduction to the next shloka. Okay, yes, to akarmadi darshi. So akarmadi darshanadeva nishkarma, by the very understanding, that intuitive understanding, that anubhava understanding, as himself free from the individuality, a whole absolute being is he. Sannyasi nishkarma. In his understanding, he becomes free from karma. Karma means still that relativeness. Okay? So he becomes free from the relativeness. Therefore, sannyasi, the Okay, in his understanding, he transcends his individuality, transcends body, transcends mind. So, generally, we people are associated with the mind, isn't it? Mind is we, because mind thinks, mind has feelings, mind has thoughts and ideas, ideologies, so many things. So, our mind is we generally. But the person, an enlightened man, a jnani, who understands mind is separate and he transcends the mind, he is no more a sign. He is just a consciousness without an individuality, without a personality. So, a consciousness without a personality, without a mind. He transcends the mind. Mind is too small for him. A too small instrument is much more than the mind. Okay. Then he is like acting in a drama. An actor himself is beyond his role. An actor himself is beyond his role. Role is only for others' sake, is only just apparent. He doesn't have the role because he transcends. He is beyond the role. So such a person, nishkarma, he is free from the activity of a role, like in a drama. In a drama, a character has got a lot of activity, dialogues to say and act and behave and do all those things. So the actor himself is beyond the activities of a character. See the difference. A character has got certain ambition, certain desires, certain actions, certain dialogues, certain things to do. All those things do not touch the actor. Actor is totally untouched by it. So akarma didarshi, nishkarma, he is a sannyasi. Sannyasi means he is free from all karmas. That means he doesn't feel any inward pressure, because all pressure begins with your individuality. As an individual, you are under pressure to interact with the world, respond to the world. Okay. So once you are free from the individuality, you are free. That is sannyasa. Sannyasa is freedom from a pressure to act, pressure to relate to. Because there is a second thing and you have to relate to, and you are an individual. When you are free from individuality, no pressure. Okay, because there is no second thing to you. There is nothing to respond to you. You are already free from the pressure of any relationship. That is sannyasa. Okay, he is sannyasi, he is a renunciate. So nishkarma, sannyasi. How does he live? Live means from the worldly standpoint. How does he look to others? Others, when you look at him, how does he live? He seems to be so relaxed. He doesn't seem to be under any pressure. Like a baby, you see them? Babies seem to be so relaxed. No pressure at all. See how the grown-up people, elderly people have got lot of family responsibilities, jobs, running about. You can see in his mind and eyes, see the baby's face. Baby's face looks so innocent, no pressure, no desire, no ambition. What to do tomorrow, what to achieve. Baby lives in the present moment. See, baby's mind is so relaxed because baby lives in the present moment. When laughs, baby laughs wholeheartedly. Okay? When baby laughs whole being, your body. It is not your eyes alone laugh. It is not your face laughs. It is not your mouth that you open your mouth and then your teeth are seen. When the baby laughs, it is whole body laughs. Whole being laughs because you are whole together as one person. Because you live in the present moment. So sannyasi means he lives in the present moment. All his future is totally free. No desire, no ambition, no tomorrow, what will happen, no worry, no tension. Whole life, no regret for past and no desire, no worry about tomorrow. No regret about past and no desire, no ambition, no goals, no target about tomorrow. All goals are completely fulfilled. Sayukta kritsna karma krit, we told in the previous shloka. Kritsna karma krit is relaxed, spontaneous, like you see how baby lives. When he sits, you can see baby sitting in the present moment. In fact, you talk to the baby of 2 or 3 years old baby, when he starts speaking, they do not know the difference between tomorrow and yesterday. You talk to the babies, those who start speaking, you know what they say? We have come tomorrow, they talk. You have come tomorrow? You ask the baby, when did you come? They say, see, I have come tomorrow. They say, you have come tomorrow? Because they cannot make out tomorrow or yesterday because they are not conscious of time. They live in the present. We enjoy the babies talking, baby innocent. We think say baby is ignorant. Baby is not ignorant, baby is wisest. Because baby is timeless. It is living in the timeless presence, timeless present moment. You see them, it's how beautiful it is. We live in time, past, present, future. We are in a process. Baby doesn't live in process. Baby lives in the present. Eternal present. Infinite present. Without future, without yesterday. Just in the present. Timeless existence. How beautiful it is. Therefore, a jnani, a sannyasi who understands the truth, he lives like the baby in the eternal present. Okay? Tomorrow means what? We are talking of psychological tomorrow. Psychological tomorrow means what? Your mind runs into future. Mind has a desire, wants something, expects something, desires something. That desire, that expectation, that want, I want something more. That more is a time. Okay? In psychologically, mind thinks of next moment. It runs into next moment, expects something more. That next moment is a psychological time. Your mind wants the next. Why can't it live in the present? Because it is not happy with the present. When it is not happy with the present, it wants to jump into next, but the next has to come. It has not yet come. Therefore, psychologically, you start imagining, hoping, desiring, wanting, expecting. That is only still an imaginary state. Okay? That is a time. That creates time. When you are free from anxiety, worry about tomorrow, and desire, expectation about tomorrow, you see baby just lives in the present. Because the tomorrow, the expectation, desire, just not there. No regrets about yesterday. The regret about the yesterday, the worry about yesterday, the attachment about what you have already seen, what already has gone, that sits in your mind. A part of mind is occupied by the past. A part of mind is occupied by the future. A very small part you live in the present. Don't you see? A part of mind is occupied by the past. Part of mind is occupied by future. Only a small part you live in the present. What we have to do is empty that past and future. Remove that. All the regrets, worries, tensions, attachment, whatever you have got, just leave them. All past is just to clean it. Baby doesn't have a past. Baby doesn't have the old memories. Any new person comes home, you see them. A 2 or 3 years old baby. Any new person comes home, they look at them as a strangest person on the life. They again and again continuously look at them. People wonder, what is the baby looking? They say baby is looking because he's a new person you have never seen before. Keep on looking at them. Because baby doesn't have a past memories. So that mind, the look is a fresh look. You're trying to see him right now. Like that, a sannyasi, akarma, nishkarma. So, to understand that jnani state, we have few experiences already in our life. Look at the baby. Look at our own experience of deep sleep. A few experiences, we have a small experiences here and there. With the help of these experiences, try to understand your jnani's anubhava. That Brahmajnana's anubhava, you have to take help of these small experiences in our own life. Without experience, it becomes a theoretical and conceptual. It is all waste. You have to pay attention to your own experiences. Okay? And try to live in those experiences. Live means what? They are already there. See yourself in that experience, how you are. That is your natural state. That is you. That is real Atma. That is real Brahman. Okay? So, Nishkarma Sannyasi, Jivanama. How does he live? Jivana matra artha cheshtaha. Shankaracharya says, sannyasi. Shankaracharya emphasizes sannyasa, but anyway he gives 2 alternatives. You will understand in the next sentence. So first we discuss sannyasa and later we will discuss other one. Sannyasi means jivana matrartha cheshtaha. Just like a baby lives, it lives. Just jivana matrartha means you just live, that's all. You live. Baby just spontaneously lives. That's called sannyasa. Jivana matra artha cheshta. What just bodily functions of hunger and thirst. You need water to drink, you need food to eat, and just relax. That means there are no artificial desires. a natural basic needs of the body, that's all. It does. We people have, other people have got lot of ego-based desires. Baby doesn't have ego-based desires. You see the difference between baby and a grown-up person. You understand the sannyasa. Baby has got a natural needs of the body. It doesn't have any ego-based desires. Okay, some babies also need some playthings, they also cry and all. Okay, those things are, you can't take everything. It's an example I am taking, babies. A small part is there, you can just ignore it. Take baby as a natural, okay? Because example is an example, it won't fit in completely. Most of the time fits in. Major portion fits in. So, baby lives spontaneously. Grown-up people not only have the simple basic needs of food, water and these clothes, they have ego-based desires. That makes a difference. The ego-based desires makes you samsara. That is the world. Baby has got all basic needs except those all ego-based desires. Ego-based desires, ambitions, tomorrow and all that. Okay. Based upon frustrations, ego, past. Past you have been humiliated, you have got revenge. Past you feel that you have failed in somebody, now you want to achieve something. Past you have experienced in something, you want to repeat it. Baby doesn't want to repeat old experiences. Nor baby wants to compensate the old failures, therefore you want to make up for that. Baby's life is not a reaction to old, reaction to the past. Baby lives a fresh life. This is called Jivana Matrartha Cheshtaha. A jnani, a sannyasi lives a fresh life every moment. Is not a reaction to the past. Nor ego-based desire want to live tomorrow, want to achieve something which nobody has achieved, you want to achieve. There is no comparison with others. Okay, he just lives spontaneously. Jivana matrartha cheshta san karmani na pravartate. Therefore, he doesn't take up any work of ambition. Any work means just like baby lives. Baby doesn't have any programs, any works, any plans. Baby doesn't have any plan, any work, any targets, any goals. Does baby have any goal? 3 years old, 4 years old baby. Living alone is a goal. That is living anyway, playing anyway. That's all. So therefore, Jnani lives like a playfully. That means his mind is not continuously goaded by plans, programs, ideas. This is called Sarvakarma Sannyasa. Shankaracharya's Sannyasa, people think wearing this ochre robes and then just living, that is a Sannyasa is this, which I am explaining now. That inward freedom is Sannyasa. Therefore, Sannyasi lives like a baby playfully, not goaded by, pressurized by any ambitions, desires, plans, goals, targets. He has to achieve. He is under pressure of those goals. You see them, baby's mind, baby's face looks so innocent. Because no plans, no goals, no future, nothing, just relaxed, empty mind. Okay, this is sannyasa. Okay, jivana matrartha cheshta san karmani na pravartate. He doesn't engage himself in a planned, programmed activity. No organized activity, no planned, no programmed, no organized activity. He just lives moment to moment, in the present moment. Yadyapi prag vivekata pravruttah. Before he got this enlightenment, he was doing. He was living like anybody else, has a plan, has a goal, I have to achieve something. You have to achieve something. There he had a motivated action, motivated style of action, organized action, a motivated style of life with a purpose, with a purposeful action. Purposeful means with a goal. Now once he is enlightened, he doesn't have a goal, tomorrow's goal. Baby doesn't have a goal for tomorrow. Tomorrow means next moment. Baby's goal is the present. Live in the present. This is sannyasa. Yastu prarabdha karma san uttara kala mutpannatma samyak darshanaha. Okay. Earlier as a sadhaka, he had a goal. He has to do sadhana, go to guru, learn, listen, all that thing. Even that is a kind of a goal. Not so much pressurizing goal like worldly people. Worldly people have got lot of pressurizing goals. A Vedanta sadhaka will have a less pressurizing, but it is also a small goal, okay? A small pressure is there, a little bit. But so as a sadhaka, he had those goals that I have to control myself, my self-control, mind control. Then I have to learn Vedanta, understand. Now there is a little goal is there. But little means a less pressurizing goal. And once as a result of his Vedanta Vichara, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, he gets enlightenment. He becomes free from all kinds of goals and all kinds of planned programs, planned activities. Because no ego-based activities. Then life is only a play, like babies. Okay. So, yastu prarabdha karma san. See, Shankaracharya's sentence, each sentence has an extraordinary beauty. You can see him, he is never an intellectual. Intellectuals means it doesn't talk too much of intellectual. He talks directly from his anubhava, spontaneously. As we told, just like a baby, he spontaneously his expression. Each sentence exactly corresponds to his anubhava. Shankara Bhashya is that way is an amazing Bhashya. Nowhere you find in any other books. It's an excellent thing. So yastu prarabdha, each sentence is a great meditation, you see. Each sentence you have to learn the Sanskrit to enjoy the beauty of Shankaras. And each sentence is a meditation. It's such a beautiful thing. Yastu prarabdha karma san. Uttarakalam utpannatma samyak darshana. Before he was an ordinary sadhaka, later he becomes free. That is like a baby. That means he spontaneously lives in the present. That is sannyasi. So, parityajatyeva samyak darshana sansa sarva karmani prayojanam apashyan. Then all his goals, plans, futures, tomorrow, all that burden just gets out of you. That means he becomes totally free, because the very individuality is melted away. Individuality is transcended. So all that burden of individuality goes away. He becomes totally sannyasi. Then what happens? Karmani, all the karmas, all the planned programs of life, all the karmas, prayojanam apashyan. He doesn't feel any pressure to achieve anything in life. See, people, you see them. If a person is sitting idle, compares with others. Everybody, I give you just a worldly example. How we feel the pressure that I want to achieve something. You ask the people, what do you want? They say, I want to achieve something. What? People have, you talk to people, everybody has some plan, some goal and wants to achieve something. There is nobody who is free from goal except a lazy man. But lazy man also compares with others and feels, oh, they are achieving something I have not achieved. But you also, why don't you make a plan? Oh, I can't do that. Because your laziness is so much overpowering. He loves it, but he can't do. So we are not talking of those people. So if a person doesn't have a goal and achievements, he feels inferior that, oh, I have not achieved anything, my life gone waste. Oh, I have this thing. But Jnani doesn't feel. Does baby ever feel compared with others? Oh, my father is achieving so much, my mother is achieving so much. They are very busy people, oh, doing lot of work and plans and program. Baby doesn't compare with parents and doesn't feel jealous also, oh, they have got plans and program. Baby, no programs, nothing. Every program is full, completely fulfilled. All plans are fulfilled, all programs are fulfilled. You live, that is enough. So before, as a sadhaka, he had a plans and programs, at least a little bit of Vedanta understanding. I have to be liberated, I have to understand the truth, I have to become free from this jiva bhava, samsara. You had a little goal. But once he understands what happened, all the karmas, plans, programs, burdens go away. He remains a simply free person. Karma parityajatyeva. Then what happened? All karmas, plans, programs, they get dropped off. He doesn't consciously, they just get dropped off. He lives like a sannyasi. You may wear kashaya, you may not wear, but that's the life, inner mind has become sannyasi. Okay. Sakutaschinnimitat, such a person. He is living, okay, I'll finish in 2 minutes, so time is up. Such a person, if due to some reason, because he is a part of a society, I think this point I have to explain in the next class. Kutaschinnimichat karma sambhave. Due to the external reasons, worldly reasons, you are already in a family manner, you are already in a society, people are there, they need something, help from you, you just continue. One thing is he gives up the worldly life as a grihastha and becomes a sannyasi. If it is not possible due to external reason, not due to inward reason, so he continues externally as a grihastha, inwardly has already become sannyasi. Inwardly has become sannyasi, externally he just continues as if he is a grihastha. Just this is also a drama like. He lives as a grihastha more like a drama because inwardly he doesn't have any desires and ambition. This point we will discuss in the next class. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.